Hello parents, caregivers, friends, neighbours, welcome. I am Glenda Shupinyaning, the Executive Director of the South African Education Project. Every child deserves a fair start. Research has shown us that quality early learning programs build cognitive skills, social, emotional foundations children need to succeed in grade R and in primary school. Ensuring that children start learning early helps level the playing field. Let's give every child an equal opportunity to thrive. Welcome to our first episode with the South African Education Project. This is our first conversation where we will be unpacking all things ECD. And I'll bring for you my friends that are working in the sector that will help us to understand ECD better. I do not want to have these conversations alone, but have friends like Jessica with us. Jessica, but how was your run? Apparently my friend had a run this morning, a 15-kilometer run. Yes. So tell us, how was that before you even came here?
Oh, Glenda, it was a very early morning, I will say. I woke up about 4 o'clock, but we did it. It's the most I've ever run, so feeling like I achieved something this morning. It was good, yeah.
I'm glad. I always say one thing, the Almighty, when He was building me, right? Running was not one of those things. I can hike, but not run.
Linda, you never know. There could be a runner hiding deep inside of you.
Okay, I'll give it a try. So today I would like us to just basically help our parents understand what is ECD all about. Some people call it ECD, early childhood development. Some say creche. It's all the same thing, parents. So Jessica, first please tell us who you are, which organization you work for. I know you're a deputy director. But help our parents understand who is this person is here to talk about ECD and why we should listen to her.
Thank you. Yes, so my name is Jessica and I work for the Center for Early Childhood Development. I am now the Deputy Director. I've been in the sector for more than 10 years now, so it's been a while, but my background is social work. I studied social work, but I think I was always very interested in being in education. The choice actually for me was between being a teacher and being a social worker, and so I chose being a social worker, but the two link so well. I've always been so interested in education. And then when you look at the crisis in education, you kind of realize you've got to keep going down and down and down. And you really have to start at that bottom foundation with really young children in order to make a difference throughout the rest of the system. And so, yeah, ever since then, I've been part of the sector and love it. And yeah, I think it's such important and valuable work that people do in early childhood development.
Oh, wow. So if you can just tell us why early childhood development, why ECDs, what is this all about? Tell us, why do parents need to know this?
Yes. So often parents will say, you say early childhood development or you say ECD and people just think creche or they think preschool. And early childhood development is so much more than that. It's the time. It's basically a time in somebody's life, like a phase of life. And so it's usually depending, they're different definitions, but some say from conception, so when that child is conceived up until the age of 6 or 9, there are differing definitions, but it's that early phase in a child's life. So from the time that they're conceived, because things like what the mother eats, if she talks to the child while she's pregnant, are all important. And early childhood development really encompasses the development of that child through that time period. And so we're looking at how they develop cognitively, how they develop emotionally, psychologically, how their physical development happens. So it's really an all-encompassing and very important time in anybody's life.
So if a 5-year-old could describe their day, and what might they say they are learning without realizing it?
Yeah, so you might have a child who comes home and says, Mom or Dad, today we just drew pictures. That's what we did in the morning. We just drew pictures. But drawing a picture is so much more than just drawing a picture. It's actually to do with, starting to learn your fine motor skills, so using your fingers, getting your grip right. And that's the beginning of before they start writing. So you need to start drawing in order to have that fine motor skill development. But also drawing is about imagination. It's about letting children be creative and be problem solvers. And so drawing is so much more than just, a child just drew a nice picture. It's them expressing themselves, exploring the world, doing their fine motor development, but also doing early literacy and kind of getting ready for when they need to write. And a child might also come home and say, today we played in the sand. And it's a similar thing. It's about, playing in the sand, then you're learning, especially with sand and buckets and a trowel and things like that. When children play in sand, they're learning about volume. They're learning about how much sand can fit in that bucket. When you pour it out, what happens. And so we're learning all these concepts at that early age. That's so important. And if you think about the fact that 90% of a child's brain is developed by the age of 5, those things are so important to happen in that time period. And even things like, Mom, today I played with the ball with my friends outside. That's also, other things come into play, like negotiating. Maybe there was a bit of conflict about who was going to play with the ball, and really trying to build all of those skills that you need to be a successful adult in society.
You know what? I was recently on a flight, and this young man that was sitting next to me, he was trying to fit his bag in the overhead compartment, right? And his bag is big, and I'm looking at the space, it's not going to fit. And I wondered to myself, did this guy go to an ECD? Because by now, you would know when you're playing with your blocks, this will fit, this will not fit, this shape won't fit in this box. And I was like, oh, did you go to an ECD? You would have learned this.
Yes.
But how does the relationship of an ECD practitioner influence the child's developing brain, their social skills, their emotion, their place of safety? When you have a child attending an ECD, what does that translate to? How is that important?
I mean, it is so important. And I think that this is something that often isn't spoken about or thought about enough when we talk about early childhood development. Often there is a focus very much on the education part of it, about learning to read, learning to write, but less about the kind of other soft skills that happen that teachers play such an important role in doing. Teachers are really role models for their children. So they role model positive behavior for young children, and they create that safe space, and they create stability. We don't know where children are coming from. They're coming from different environments, different contexts. But if they come into the ECD center with their, they have their teacher that they love, who treats them with kindness and respect, and then that way is modeling that for those children. And I think we really underestimate that part of the work. And most teachers in South Africa do this work because they love children and because they're dedicated. And so we mustn't, kind of sweep aside the importance of creating that loving relationship between a teacher and a child, and how important that can be for that child, and how important that teacher can be in terms of a safe space. And also, when we're learning about safe space, kindness, it's also helping that child's social emotional development to happen. So they're learning how to be kind, how to share, how to talk to others, how to treat others. And at such a young age, that kind of bonding is really important for them to feel safe, because that's something that carries on with all of us as we get older.
We've got parents that will say, my child can stay at home because I've got granny there to look after my child, and what is the need? Like, I mean, we have grown. There are certain parents that said, I did not go to an ECD and I turned out just fine, you know? Even myself, the first time my kids went to an ECD, both my kids started at 3 years. What are the long-term implications, in your opinion, that affects a child that did not attend an ECD?
So I also only went to preschool at about the age of 3. But I mean, what the research tells us is that if you have 2 years of quality early childhood development, so you play a lot, you do emergent literacy, you're busy throwing balls outside, you're playing with your blocks. If you have that quality foundation, it's really that foundation. 90% of the brain is set, so you're creating that foundation that a child needs. If that child is in a home environment, they might not get that. What we also know is that children often receive the only nutritious meal, because we're in South Africa with huge rates of poverty and inequality, that ECD centers play a really important role in providing nutrition to those young children, and you need good nutrition for the brain to develop. So if a child doesn't receive quality early childhood development, that has lifelong repercussions. What it means is that they might not develop physically, cognitively, emotionally as they should. And that has consequences for children enter into formal schooling, grade R, grade 1, and they're not where they are meant to be. And so they're already behind right from the beginning. And then you see the impact might be that child then drops out of school in grade 9 or doesn't make it to matric. That has impacts on whether they can be gainfully employed or not. And so it really has this ripple effect for society, and why early childhood development is really setting that child up for life. And it is so important, because if it doesn't go right, it has that ripple effect down that child's life.
That's it, parents. This is my friend Jessica Blom from CECD, helping us to understand all things early childhood development. Thank you for listening. I hope you will, in the chat box, perhaps give us more questions. What should we discuss next? And we are here to help you understand the importance of early childhood development and letting our kids start at the right time, leveling the playing field for our children. Till next time, bye.